And starting live stream. Okay, we're back. Welcome back to more Novel Bootcamp. Last week I was sick, so that has actually pushed out our deadline by just one day, but this still is the program that will finish your book by the end of the year. We've got 2 classes left. We've got Pressure Cooker today, and then next week is Final Lab and Editing Techniques. I think that will actually be on December 13th, just due to the fact that I will be in Denver next Sunday. So I think next class, or next week on this day, we will be off from Novel Bootcamp. Then the week back after that will be mid-December. We'll come back for one last finale, and that will be the final class in the series. So then you will be intending to finish that book by the end of the year, if you are following the milestones, of course. All right, look how much ground we've covered. We, in fact, also restarted this, if you remember, restarted this bootcamp from the ground up, and that gave us even more topics and classes, some of which were on this list and some weren't. We've covered everything from point of view, characters, dialogue, conflict, tension, subplots, mystery, twists, suspense, mood, tone, genre, action, set pieces, and character arcs over the course of, gosh, months and months. So I hope that you guys feel that you're learning and advancing and making progress in those projects and in your career. Final Lab and Editing Technique. Yeah, I think that will be December 13th. I would not count on the class being next week because I'll be gone. Nacho might run something in the slot, but I would not, wouldn't count on it. Okay, so we're starting today with check-ins, looking at Pressure Cooker. And this is the second half of Act 2, sometimes referred to as Act 2B. So we'll be looking at yes, but, no, and try-fail cycles. Be looking at some Pressure Cooker practice. And then I cut that slide, so we're actually not doing a full breakdown on Jane Eyre this time, but I want to finish with a new exercise on escalating the second half of Act 2. So that will be happening there instead. All right, only 14 days till the end of the boot camp, and really the end of all of this year's boot camps. Does anyone who has not checked in yet want to give us an update? Dakota or Jaime, are you able to speak aloud? Maybe neither one. Okay, not yet. That's all right. Feel free to just let us know in the text or unmute when you can. We heard from Becky and Vicky, who are making good progress, it seems like. Slow and steady. Okay, any roadblocks and any updates on things you guys have been reading? So any questions or issues that have been getting in the way of your book, stopping you from making that progress?
Well, my biggest issue is I still want to finish this. Obviously the current one that my editor wants takes priority. But I still want to finish writing this horror because I'm really enjoying it, even though he's saying that it's not this right genre, and so it wouldn't be, if the publisher says yes to this book, it wouldn't be the next book they'd publish. It'd probably be a few books in. And so I'm like, do I just shelve it and come back to it? Or do I get out of my system, finish a first draft, and then shelve it? Like, I'm not really sure. I'm about halfway through. Actually, 3/4 of the way through.
And there's no way you can position it as the same genre?
I'd have to rewrite it because she said that mystery is my genre, and if I made the supernatural have a bit more, so for example, she said that something like Ghostbusters would be in my genre because although it's supernatural dealing with ghosts, they're using technology to beat them. So I'd need to have it be more. I'd need to find a mystery, which we realised the other week I don't, and also have it be less just magic and more his magic with technology, which I feel like if I'm doing that many changes, I'm sort of like, if I do that many changes, then maybe I can just start with a whole new story.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, so
yeah, if the driving plot element is what they're really looking for. If they're looking for a central driving question and some kind of technological element, then yeah, maybe it would be just easier to come up with something brand new rather than force it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because that's two big changes.
Right.
So cool. All right, I'll shelve it and start with something new in the new year.
Yeah, seems like a good idea. I think that you could change it if you wanted to, but it would just require a lot of rethinking. And if you like what you have so far,
Mm,
then it might just take you down the wrong course.
yeah. Um, I feel like I like what it is at the moment. And it's not a never with this book. It's a they like to release 4 or 5 of the same kind of genre, and then you can sort of move into another genre, you know?
Yeah, just give it a little time.
So um but I've got to rewrite this book by the 15th of January, so I'll be focusing on this focusing on the setting rewrite between now and the deadline of this course, basically, the deadline of your thing.
Sounds good. All right, thank you for that. Anybody else have some issue they're running into that's stopping them from making progress or want to share something they've read?
Mostly it's in my case it is that a lot of other things have been starting moving around me
A lot of other
with
things in
projects
real
that
life,
are,
you mean?
yeah,
Oh, gotcha. Right. Well, that's the one thing I can't really
like
give too many tips on.
there's a couple of, yeah, like there's a couple of projects that started moving that were like not related to, one is not related to writing and the other one is like from screenwriting with a partner. So I technically have had to like set it aside and move slower just because it is like, okay, I need to concentrate on this because I'm technically also like in production for this thing. So it is like, okay, I need to set my priorities straight, and sometimes it is a bit difficult to set time for book.
Right. Understood. All right, thank you for that. Okay. Well, I can't help too much with real life projects, but if anyone else has something getting in the way of the writing, let us know in the text chat. I can hopefully speak to that. Today we're looking at pressure cooker. So what is pressure cooker? Here's a great picture of it. This is second half of Act 2. To the point where there are some writers and some staffs, I suppose, that even divide 3-act structure into 4. They consider Act 2 to be Act 2A, which is everything from Break Into 2 to midpoint, and Act 2 is everything from midpoint until Break Into 3. So that's actually quite a substantial portion. It makes sense because it adds up pretty mathematically, with the first act being 25% of the story, the second act being 50%, and the final act being 25%. Well, you could easily just break at that 25% mark directly in the middle. So using the midpoint, we can balance this out and consider the pressure cooker to be this latter half of Act 2. I don't do that myself, but if that is helpful for you to think of that way, you absolutely can. So in this section of the book, can somebody remind us what is the structural role of escalation, all is lost, and pit of despair?
Um, uh, the escalation is it's getting harder. Like the from the midpoint onwards, things change. They got less time. The stock clock starts ticking. There's something very serious. They're on the verge of breaking up, whatever it might be, and so the escalation is building up to that big point where, with the orders lost in the pit of despair, is where the main character is furthest away from their goals. So if their goal is to marry someone, then the escalation builds up to the point where all is lost, they split up. Or if their goal is to save a parent, then their escalation builds up to all is lost, they think their parents died, or there's no way they could save them now.
Sure. Good explanation. Thank you. It's also a nice place to give your character some of what they do want in order to start to contrast the things they were really looking for with the things they need, right? And so if your character's goal was initially, I want to get the top job at the company, then maybe in escalation they actually get it. Or maybe if the midpoint as that kind of like major benchmark of progress in the middle, they actually get what they want, then the escalation can start to be where they start to rationalize and understand the repercussions and the true consequences of getting what they wanted. So it could be where they start to understand that what they want and what they need is actually a bit different. And with the all is lost kind of being that moment that seeks to interrogate that difference between what they want and need. Because usually it will be a point where now it seems that their initial goal is either impossible or already failed. Like there's no way we could succeed at that now. So Pit of Despair leads us to this moment where your character asks, well, why should I keep going then? What am I fighting for? If I got the thing I wanted and it turns out that it wasn't so good, well, then where do I go from here? So all of that sequence goes towards re-examining and interrogating their core motivations in such a way that is going to get them to dig down deep at that break into 3 and realize what is actually important to me and what do I really have to do in the finale. So yeah, that escalation is all about layering in costs and difficulties, making sure that we are adding more obstacles to get the journey more and more challenging as it goes on. And your character is getting closer and closer to this point where now either they have seemingly failed or it would seem impossible that we could now succeed given that blank bad thing has happened. And so you have to always be going back to what was their core goal in the first place? And is this a point where that core goal is either realized in some way, it changes in some way, or the character is farther than ever from getting it? So yeah, the latter half of the story is often about reinterrogating the core motivations of the beginning and either asking the character, well, how bad do you really want that thing? Or they could be asking, are you sure that's really the thing that you should have been pursuing this whole time? And sometimes that's leading up to a moment where your character has this big turn of heart, change of heart, and changes their motivations going into the last act. A lot of sort of like bad dad type stories are like this, where it's like, oh, I was so neglectful of my kid. I have to go like prove to my kid that I'm going to be a good dad to them. Or in romance stories, we're leading up to this kind of breakup where the relationship is challenged in some kind of way. It doesn't have to be a breakup, but we are essentially being forced to ask again, how badly do you want this? And have you put in the internal work to deserve and earn this happy ending? And the characters then go into the finale with a sense of motivation and a strong sense of propulsion so that they know what they want and perhaps have some new approach for how they're going to go about trying to get it. And of course, third act, they succeed or they fail. And that's the point of all of this, right? Like, what did they want? What did they need? Did they get it or did they not? And what was the difference between what they got and what they wanted? All of those sort of seek to craft the dramatic argument. Okay, Nurthus in chat says, hi, everybody, busy with new business. If I can get back on here before end of session, I will. Try my best. Okay, great. Thanks for coming by. All right, so some nice definitions of pressure cooker, which is just that latter half of the script, or the latter half of Act 2, which is everything from start of midpoint all the way to break into 3. So it's really just 3 structural beats. We're going, well, we'll count midpoint, so it's 4. Start with midpoint, we go through escalation, all is lost, pit of despair. So that's what we're focusing on and talking about today. This is a nice place to sort of start to realize the consequences of the midpoint, or the premise scenes, especially if you had sort of a wish fulfillment kind of premise, where your character gets superpowers in the premise scenes and they go all over the city fighting crime and having a great, the time of their life. Then the escalation becomes, or the midpoint becomes a nice moment for the headlines to come out about the character. We see how the public perceives them. Maybe everyone's like, a new vigilante psychopath is on the loose. And your character's like, wait, what? That's not what I was trying to do. And in escalation, we start to see the negative consequences of saving the cat from the tree. You ended up burning down a building when you did that, you moron. Or, in saving these people, you injured them a little bit and now they're suing you. So you start to see the downsides of being a hero. You start to see the costs and consequences of all the fun and the frivolous enjoyment that you were having earlier, right? So we can sort of start to understand the cost of your character's journey so far. That's a great sort of way of thinking about escalation. We're coming to sort of see that and feel that cost up front. So if that seems like something was threatened to your characters early on, like you can't just keep suing this company or they're going to send guys after you, then escalation is probably where that would happen. Where now there's, characters that are trying to work against your hero. They are adding more pressure, more difficulty, and ensuring that steady uphill climb of challenge towards the end. The antagonistic forces, whatever they might be, are going to start to tighten their grasp and throw the protagonist off balance. So that might be other characters in the world, or that could be your character's own self-doubt and things like this in a more internal story. It could be them feeling like I'm not really deserving of love. That could be an antagonistic force. Novels can be much more internal than movies can, so we can consider antagonistic forces to be a slightly more abstracted concept. Okay, I see a question from Dakota. I'm struggling with my secondary character, i.e. Watson, Sherlock. Specifically, why am I focusing on these characters at the moment? The answer is because I really need to not overload the main character. I'm finding myself overthinking description of insert fantastical place or idea, despite having real-world analogies. I also haven't written anything in a week and a half. I've lost the momentum. Oh no, that's bad. Well, hopefully you can get that back. Seems like a couple different questions here. The first question is, I'm struggling with the question of why am I focusing on these characters at the moment? So that says that you have several different groups of POV characters. Is that right? Also, are you able to speak out loud and answer questions? Because I want to.
I can. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I am now. Yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah, I
Okay.
have two.
You just have two. Okay, so you're
Yeah,
flipping back and forth.
I have two POVs.
Okay, and are you alternating chapter by chapter, or how are you managing that?
It's kind of every couple chapters, so five. So I'm doing it in breaks of 5.
Okay. You could even, I mean, think of it if you wanted to, you could do like it's a Joe chapter, part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, part 5, and then you flip to here's their
Right.
chapter. If you wanted, but there's no actual requirement for them. You can do
Sure.
groups of chapters or manage it however you'd like. But the question is, why am I focusing on these characters at the moment? And the answer seems to be just because you felt like you were spending too long and getting kind of tired of one POV. Is that right? Or like giving too much information to that one person?
That, and also like that side character is important and is necessary and is required for the story to exist. But I also don't want to have the reader forget that character exists as well. So it's kind of like, oh yeah, we need to actually see what this character is doing.
So do they have equally important things to do?
What'd you say?
Do they have equally important things to do?
Yeah. Yep, they have equally important things to do.
Okay.
Yep.
And if that's the case, then the reader, I don't think, would be asking the question, why am I focusing on this character? Like if it feels important that we are following this, or like if the character has an important goal that seems tied to the central conflict of the story, that it's clear how it's being advanced in this sequence, and there's a lot of tension, suspense, clear obstacles with clear tactics to try to overcome them. I don't think the reader will be feeling that question of like, why am I even with this character right now? You typically only run into that question if one POV seems like they're much more important than the other, in which case it could be that you just need to find more important stuff for them to do, like split up the important tasks between them, or consider like, well, one of them's hacking the computer, the other one is doing what, right? Like they're trying to they're trying to break open a door, they're trying to do some other task, maybe some different scale of task or some different type of task, especially thinking of like Lord of the Rings is great at splitting up different characters with different scales of problems. Like you have some characters that are basically superheroes, and you have some characters that are dealing with like a wolf, and like we have to fight this wolf, or we have essentially a psychological thriller going on at the same time as an epic war story, right? So you can kind of give them different types of problems to be dealing with. And if it feels like they're both dealing with the same type of problem, but one of them feels boring, then it could be that the scales of them are off, or the ratio of like the difficulty of those problems might be sort of off such that it feels like one of them is a distraction from the other. And that's the problem. That's when you'll run into the problem. If the readers feel like, why are you distracting us from the thing that we cared about? So what I'd recommend doing is probably one of 3 things. 1, put your characters in the same place. So find a way to just move them geographically closer such that as we're alternating between them, we can still comment on what the other one is doing. And we can still like be moving forward both plots. We don't have to be completely separate in the way that we're pursuing those threads. That's one way to do it.
Sure.
Another way might be just find a way to split up the important tasks between them, even if they are geographically far apart. You know, if you were thinking one of them has to be in the base hacking, one of them has to be at the enemy base sneaking in. Well, could one of them be hacking while they're on the infiltration team? You know, rather than with the big computer at the base, they have the cell phone and they're doing sort of in the field hacking instead. So if you can find a way to like centralize or unify their goals a little more, that might be a way to make it feel like they're both pursuing the same action and same objective and both making progress towards it, as opposed to one of them being a deviation from the progress that the readers were enjoying. That might be another way to approach it.
Right.
And the third thing is maybe you just don't need to flip from if you find that you wish that you were with the other POV, maybe you just maybe you don't need to alternate at all at that moment.
Right.
So there's 3 separate approaches there. So between all those, I think you might find the answer. And did you want to comment on that? There's a second question that I'll be glad to get to, but anything else you want to say on that before we move on?
No.
Okay.
All good.
Cool. Second question was, I'm finding myself overthinking description of insert content. Okay, so you think that the world building is kind of distracting? Is that the problem?
Yep. And
Got it.
I'm kind of like, I don't care about this too much, and nobody else is going to care about it too much. But I also kind of need to describe a little bit of it because it is different. But I also don't want to, opine about forever about the history of the leaves and trees and all that other crap that nobody cares about.
Does
Like, I don't,
your character
yeah.
care about those things? I guess I would ask that in your
Right, right. I mean, like, one POV would.
okay.
One character definitely would because he's like that's his whole thing is he's all about nature and he's basically a hippie. So yeah, he would.
Great.
But yeah, but and the other character is the exact opposite, where he literally comments on, I don't really care about the history of this place. Like all I know is it's creepy and dumb. And like I really don't want to be here.
Perfect. Okay, I would use that as much as you can then to characterize both of them and use
Yep,
that to determine which details are most relevant and even like the types of descriptions that you should be writing. They should kind of match that person's level of interest and attention and sort of feel like they are the one writing it.
sure. Okay.
So yeah, I would use it. And if you feel like if you feel that even in the other POV that cares a lot about nature, if that's all boring, then you might just need to pick a different personality trait. Like if you can't think of any way to write that in a fascinating way, that just means it's not that fascinating to you, which means that you might want to just pick something else. Are they really into culture, architecture?
Right.
Like you might be able to find another detail that you are really into, and then if you yourself are bored by it, we will be bored by it.
Exactly. Yeah, that's kind of the issue. It's like, man, like I really do not care.
Okay, okay. Then either
And
skip it
that
for
was
now
good.
and come back and add it
Yeah,
in once the draft is done, or just pick a different
for
area
sure.
of interest for your character.
Right. Yeah, that's a good note.
Okay, great. And yeah, there might be something linked to nature, right? Like chemistry is linked to nature, or like animal behavior is linked to nature, is obviously very linked to nature, but it's different than, what kind of leaf is on the tree. So I would think about what else could that include that you would be more into.
Right, right.
Thank you for the great questions. Hope you're able to get that momentum back. Okay, let's keep going a few more slides on pressure cooker, and then we want to hear about your pressure cooker. So, well, actually, maybe we'll just go right to that. I think we've covered it. Anybody have questions about pressure cooker before we ask what's yours?
What is the thing you should not do to make it work?
Sorry.
Like the thing you should not do so that the pressure cooker works.
Oh,
Like the
things you should
don'ts.
not. Okay. Things you should not do. You should not make the journey easier for your characters. That means every successive task should feel like an extension of the challenges we faced before, and like a logical and organic consequence of how your character approached those challenges in the first half. And we shouldn't be undercutting the difficulty and challenge of that or lessening the dramatic impact of your scenes. Especially if you're like, well, but I really want these characters to be friends, so I just have to kind of like smooth over this conflict between them and say, well, they forgave each other. If you find yourself skipping over dramatic moments, then it's going to feel a little too easy for your heroes. And you need to be sort of mining all the possible conflict that you can between them. So that pretty much the number one rule of escalation is get harder, don't get easier. Some other things that will kind of throw this way off are on the other side of that same spectrum, we could consider just dumping endless crap on your hero for no reason, or that doesn't feel like it comes from anywhere. Like it feels like you're forcing the plot point sometimes if you're like, and then they get splashed by a puddle from a truck that drives by, and then they get home and their dog died. And then they go to bury their dog and they get attacked by a wolf. You know what I mean? If you just sort of like that's a result of those consequences not feeling organic to the world, meaning it doesn't feel like those were things that were set up or that I could have maybe predicted or figured out in some kind of way. They feel arbitrary and they feel like, well, you're just making bad stuff happen just to make bad stuff happen. So it should always, you should be ensuring that the escalation and all those lost portions should feel like a natural moment in your character's arc that we have built to and really earned, or they have sort of like failed to get away from those flaws or those problems that have brought them there. They have seen the problems, but they have not developed the tools and skills they need to overcome them. But they shouldn't feel like totally arbitrary acts of God. That's just a couple thoughts and ideas on stuff not to do in escalation. Don't make it too easy. Don't make it hard in a fake way. Thank you for the question there. Anybody want to tell us about the pressure cooker Act 2B in your story?
I can go.
Go ahead.
So in mine, it's a murder mystery, right? The midpoint is they actually find out who the murderer is, and you think, oh, that makes it easy. Nope, it's one of the most powerful people in their city, in their underwater city. So now it's like, they take it to it's kids' book, so Pandora takes it to her dad, but he's like, oh my God, if it's him, there's nothing you can do. See, I'm sorry, your uncle's gonna stay in prison because you can't beat this guy. Like, you need to drop it. So suddenly they're completely on their own because they thought, well, if they find out who the murderer is, then the adults will be able to deal with it. But given who it is, they can't. And so then from there, the kids feel completely on their own and lost. So they start working out now they've got to prove it was him and how can they do that. So because if they don't, his uncle's going to stay in prison. So they start investigating, and one way to investigate is obviously to break into his house to find evidence. So they then go and do that. But they're caught, and because Theo is illegally, there's different tiers of the city, and he's illegally in Sunshine, which is the top tier, Sunshine Zone. And this guy who's the actual murderer is the chief of security. Obviously, he then has the power to come down on Theo, and it builds to Theo basically being at risk of being imprisoned himself. So it's kind of this from the midpoint of them finding out who it is and realizing that no adult's going to help them. It's, they either have to just let Theo's uncle die or they have to do it on their own, leading up to Theo getting caught and facing a trial, which is the all is lost moment.
Right. Yeah, overall, your story, I mean, you've picked a technique which is, I actually really like this one, which is we won or we lost at the midpoint. And that always requires your characters to assess a new goal for the second half of the story. In your case, it's actually a little closer to a noir thriller than it is to a traditional mystery because they solve the mystery halfway through. Whereas in like official classic mystery sort of writing, the solving the mystery is like the end of the book. There's no more once the mystery is solved, except for maybe revealing who it was and how you figured it out, or something kind of like that. But if the second half, the driving question's already been resolved, then overall it's a little bit more of a thriller, because your characters have all the information that they need. Like the driving question is no longer relevant. So
how are they going to capture him?
It's more of a chase challenge puzzle cat and mouse kind of game thing, which is more thrillery than mystery, but that's okay.
I mean,
sounds like it works. Go ahead.
There are still twists, but I say it's a murder mystery because that's how it starts and that's how it's going to be sold. But I actually personally think of it more as a conspiracy thriller because the why hasn't come out yet, and the why is a conspiracy.
I think you're spot on, but the murder mystery might be the clearest way just to kind of explain it. And that also is
for me, great.
Yeah, and I mean, once they have the answer to the question, then I guess the nature of the problem just sort of changes. But yeah, it is closer to conspiracy paranoia thriller. But all good.
Yeah.
And sounds like it's working. I mean, we win or lose at the midpoint is a great way for your story to evolve in such a way that it still feels like an extension. It's almost like the second one's the second half's like a sequel to the first half. So you can look at that as it is the same story, but now that your characters have accomplished their first goal, they may have gained new tools, relationships, or discoveries that allow them to attack the problem in a completely new way in the second half. So like once their partnership is together, for instance, now they're going to be essentially buddy cops working together to take this villain down, as opposed to the first half of the story where they were kind of more like amateur detectives that were, just growing to know each other and growing to work together better. So at the midpoint of
Yeah.
these, often your characters have to completely reassess the core issue and find some completely new way of solving it, because their first tactic is not going to work anymore. Their first tactic has already come to its logical conclusion.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for sharing that one. Any questions you wanted to ask about that? I mean, I think you've had this plot figured out for a while, so maybe you're not in the plotting stage anymore, but anything else you want to say or ask?
No, like I say, my issue now is the setting, is the making the setting match it. That's the issue I'm facing now.
Right.
So, and I've got ideas.
All right, very good.
Sure. So yeah.
Anyone else want to share the pressure cooker of their novel and ask any questions about it? Or just share? Sharing's fine.
I mean, I could.
Go ahead.
It is still a work in progress, though.
That's okay. These are all works in progress.
But really, right now, what I have is that at this point, my main character, I've established them as an unreliable character to the others. Not really an unreliable narrator, since we know what they want from the beginning. But they start doing things that don't seem that heroic. And we don't know all the way why they are doing them. So technically, they start turning the other character that's like the protagonist in a way, not the main character, but the protagonist of the novel. They don't have a POV, but they're like the hero type. And they start turning them into like this villain or kind of force for evil slowly. And ends up being that they're doing this for their well-being, because if not, they were going to die. But in the middle, it's like you don't know why they're turning them into a monster in a way.
Okay, so your hero starts betraying their old relationships and allies?
Mm,
No?
in a way, but it is more like the hero of the story is being influenced by this main character of mine.
You're saying the hero and the main character are not the same person? You're saying those are two separate roles?
Yeah, my POV is not the hero.
Oh, okay. Understood. All right. Thank you for sharing that. Welcome, Megan.
Thank you.
We're talking latter half of Act 2 today, which is pressure cooker. So we're increasing the danger and adding complications. There's a lot of different ways to do this. Mostly we're looking at your hero either failing to overcome obstacles, or if they are succeeding every time, we can still continuously challenge them with harder and harder tasks. If they are succeeding with setbacks, meaning that we're losing resources of various kinds, your character's hitting obstacles that some of which they overcome, some of which they can break through, and some of which when they break through, they are left injured, right? They are losing materials, energy, health, relationships, moral decline, like they're becoming somebody they never thought they would become. They're having to make darker choices or betrayals or work against people they used to support. Meantime, the villains are gaining resources or adding progress to their goal, and ticking clocks of various kinds are making your hero's journey more difficult. So hopefully you have at least one or two ticking clocks that you can advance to add pressure and urgency throughout the book. You want the story to always be getting more tense and dramatic and exciting on the way to the climax. I mentioned this problem of not making sure that the obstacles are not getting easier. We are leading up to that all is lost moment, which is where the extent of the bad thing that will happen if your hero fails to accomplish their task happens. That was a overloaded sentence, wasn't it? But the idea is that we are slowly navigating to the point where your hero's journey has either failed or seems like completely impossible. We were just talking about how you can do this at the midpoint, but the all is lost is where you will usually be doing this. And so everything leading up to that point has to be building to that all is lost. So often you won't be able to write a great escalation until you know what the final moment of that will be. You need to know that this will lead to a breakup, the hero's mentor being killed or something like that. So you have to know what you're leading to before you can escalate properly. Any issue your character's facing can either deepen or broaden, meaning it gets worse, or the scope increases. What does the scope of a problem mean, or what am I referring to here?
You are referring to the I mean, wow, scope of the problem. I mean, that's kind of that. I mean, I feel like it kind of explains itself, honestly. But basically, it is essentially how big is the problem? What is the solution that solves the problem, and does it fit the scope of that problem? Does your solution, does it fit that puzzle piece, right? I feel like scope of the problem is a good way to kind of fit it, because that's essentially what you're trying to solve is the problem. And if the solution isn't big enough to solve that problem, then you're not fulfilling the scope of the problem. You're just, you have to have something that is big enough to fill that space, to fit that puzzle piece, as it were.
Thank you for that. Yeah, so the scope is like the magnitude or the breadth of the problem, meaning how many characters are affected by this thing. A problem that is really, really bad, but not that broad is, well, an evil ninja has showed up at our monastery and he's going to destroy it. He's going to destroy our whole country, this one ninja. A problem that would then be much broader is, oh no, he has 100 ninjas. That's broader. We could also do the opposite, where we say, well, there's 100 snakes that are attacking our monastery in the mountains. It's pretty broad. It's not that deep. I mean, any individual snake is not that big of an issue, but there's a lot of them, and it's affecting a lot of us. So the problem either broadens to include more characters, or you're affecting more people, you are causing more fallout in your characters' lives, and you are causing more issues. And deepening is about causing worse issues. So it's about worse or more. You can also do both. You can say it's worse and more. We thought it was one ninja, but in fact it was a robot ninja, and there's 10 of them. There, I just deepened and broadened the problem. So you're always making these choices when it comes to your pressure cooker. You're asking, how can we make the problem worse? And there's a way you can navigate through it if you use these two potential solutions to any question. If we ask the question, do they overcome the problem? The answers are either yes, but, meaning they do accomplish it, but they run into an additional obstacle or complication or cost, or no and, something deepens or broadens the problem, or both. So if we're doing yes, but, this might be a kind of more familiar narrative trick to use than you might think, especially thinking of these stories where there's a sort of really competent hero. And somebody name a really competent hero that seems to always win.
Sherlock Holmes.
Sherlock Holmes, yep. Who else?
James Bond.
Reacher.
James Bond and Reacher, yep. Similar archetype of badass invincible spy, basically. Aren't they pretty much always succeeding? They kind of have to always succeed, or else they would be dead, because all their problems are life or death. Or if they didn't succeed, then the world would blow up, right? Megan, go ahead.
There has to be that one moment in James Bond, though, where he gets captured and then the villain has to go on this ridiculous monologue.
Yeah, we got the laser moving in. I mean, that feels like a beat straight out of Batman. Like at this point, it's like the Riddler's got you in his giant wheel trap or whatever it is. Yeah, so you can definitely do a story where the character pretty much only ever wins. But the challenge of those becomes tricking us, or that sort of consensual sort of tricking where we want to be tricked, we're there to be tricked. We want to be tricked, the audience wants to be tricked into thinking, well, they're just on the verge of succeeding every time, like they just barely succeed. Every victory needs to be really hard fought and barely accomplished, and like, how the heck are they going to get through the next one? That should always be the sensation that we have from these. So with that in mind, though, your character can win every single time. They can always do yes, but. And the but is going to be, does Jack Reacher fight the bad guys? Yes, but he beats up the bad guys, but he alerts the gang. Now they're all after him, right? Then he goes home.
I feel like
Does he escape? Go ahead.
I feel like this is pretty much the whole genre of middle grade fiction, with few exceptions. Because one of the things with middle grade is we're expecting I want to say happy ending, but we're expecting a win. We're expecting the characters to succeed. It's it there are obviously exceptions you can pick out, but on the whole, middle grade is about kids overcoming their troubles and succeeding and winning and having a positive ending. So again, you know that Harry Potter's not going to actually die, at least in the first few books, because they're middle grade. So your question is, how is he going to survive? You know?
Right. And their problems do deepen and broaden as it starts out, smaller scope, like Harry's life is in danger. And then by the end, it's like the whole school is in danger. Almost, I think the whole world is sort of in danger if Voldemort wins by the end. So
Yeah.
the scope creeps up
So
quite a lot. Go ahead.
I would argue from book 4, which has the first like death, it's then YA, not middle grade. The books age with the characters. So only the first 3 Harry Potter books are middle grade.
Yeah.
YA, you absolutely can have the character failing. But middle grade, no, you almost always want to have them win.
Yeah. Also, too, because I think you just don't have that much room in the book. And so you don't have that much space for brick wall scenes, which is where your character tries a tactic, it fails, and they don't really learn anything. They don't really gain anything. It's just like, oh, well, that didn't work. There's not that much room for those sorts of scenes. Typically, you want to have them succeeding, but with some kind of cost. So you're pushing them closer to the premise at all times. You're always getting them closer to the premise. But along the way, accumulating obstacles, enemies, and setbacks. They can also fail sometimes too. That's fine.
Oh yeah, kids they fail sometimes during the book, but ultimately they will always succeed. But then even think about James Bond, there's times when he tries something and it fails.
Yep, there
It
definitely are.
just by the end, by the end he wins. The good guys win.
Yeah, there's so much ground he has to cover that you have to kind of fail them forward, which is where they will not exactly accomplish the thing they wanted to in the way that they thought they would. But, he gets hit in the face, falls into a back alley. The guy that helps him out of the dumpster ends up being the spy he was looking for the whole time. That kind of stuff. You can do
Yeah.
the sort of thing where it's like the failure still comes with progress.
See, I would have said superhero movies means that they always need to win, but then oh, what's it? Avengers, the one where Thanos does the click.
Yeah.
Infinity Wars, yeah. They didn't win then.
Yeah, that was a big exception, which I think stood out more because it was so subversive of the normal ending.
Yes.
I mean, I think even one character is even just like, did we just lose? What? Like he's so surprised.
Yeah, yeah.
You're a little too used to winning there, buddy. All right. So let's look at trifail cycles, then we'll go into the exercise for today. This is called the pressure exercise. We'll be coming up with plot points to escalate a problem. Trifail cycle. So if this is completely new to you and seems kind of dumb or pointless, then you don't really need to know about this. This is just like, these are additional diagnostic tactics that you can sometimes use while editing in your second draft to figure out why scenes aren't really working, and a way to sort of like amplify your scenes and to make them better and make them more dramatic, more difficult, and escalate with with sharper and more concrete consequences. But it's okay if you aren't always writing with this exact thing in mind. Like I only learned about this a couple of years ago, so don't stress too much about this if it feels like a foreign language to you. In any case, let's look at what trifail cycle actually means and what this refers to. So this is a technique for unfolding conflict in such a way that it escalates in terms of suspense, danger, and consequences. For each conflict that comes up in the story, we can just ask this question: will our hero succeed at this tactic? The possible answers are really yes, yes, but, no, and no, and. But we're really focusing on yes, but, and no, and. Yes, but means yes, they do succeed, but with this consequence or complication. No, and means not only do they fail, but also there is a consequence and complication. So we're making sure no matter what, things are getting worse, more difficult, and more challenging, more complicated for the hero as the story advances. A way that you this is like another sort of way of thinking of the plot progression on a scene by scene basis is you can think of it as sort of like scenes and sequels, like a sequel to the scene you just wrote. It means that every scene you write, it's going to focus on, like we would consider a quote scene in a novel to be your characters advancing their goal, putting plans in motion, making clear, tangible progress towards an objective. And the quote sequel to that scene is the one immediately afterwards, in which your characters have to sort of realize the extent of what they just accomplished. Like, how far did we just come? What is their reaction to what happened? The dilemma is, what do we do now? Or the dilemma is, I have to assess what my next steps could be and what the facts now are. And the last step of that is the decision, meaning, well, what do we do moving forward? So we have to make a plan and resolve to do something about this. So you can, again, this is an optional way of breaking down your plotting. But if you look at the, let's call them more plot-focused or progress-focused scenes as being ones about external development and your character making clear, tangible external progress towards a goal, then the sequel scenes are more about the internal progress of your character understanding the ways that they are changing, their tactics are changing, their level of competence or engagement or something else on the inside is changing as the story moves forward. Meaning, in some cases, your hero is already a super spy and is not very surprised by the fact that they continue to succeed, and they don't have a ton of reaction to what's going on. Maybe, though, you can find some point of interest for them, meaning, like, this might be a mission like the other ones, but I'm getting more attached to the person I've been partnered with than I ever have before, right? There's always something you can bring out on the internal level, even if your character's just sort of winning and succeeding and moving on. So we are, again, reacting, we are considering the dilemma, and we are making a choice to move forward in these sequel scenes. You need to ensure also that there's a good balance of POV of the interior and exterior, both in the scenes and also in the sequels. So we should be hearing and feeling your character's thoughts and emotions in the moment, and then sort of in this space to breathe that will bridge us to the next scene, we should be understanding how these things are, how in aggregate these actions, events, and choices are building up on your character over time. So those make good moments for your character to reflect and ask, well, how far have I come? What am I going to have to do next? Am I happy with my progress? Am I unhappy with my progress? Do I like who I'm becoming? Do I not like who I'm becoming? Things like this that sort of just seek to comment upon their interior development. Does everyone understand the difference between what would be considered a scene and a sequel? I know this is kind of a weird, abstract, strange term. Any questions there? Okay, if there's no questions, we can move on. Alrighty. So just to recap and conclude, the pit of despair and escalation pressure cooker type of stuff, in some ways is to hit the character, knock them down, and hit them while they're down to make the upswing into the third act much stronger. So we are making sure to pile on consequences. But the thing is that you don't have to only introduce consequences and challenges and terrible things happening in the sequence. It can also include some things that your character wants or thought they wanted. Like, in some ways, leading up to moments where your character succeeds at early benchmarks and objectives can lead to moments where they then have to rethink, well, now that I've done that, what do I do next? Or now that I've gotten that, am I sure that I wanted that? Or am I sure that I deserve it? Or am I sure that I'm going to be able to make good on that? Like, I got this amazing job. How am I ever going to fulfill the expectations of someone with that job? So sometimes good things happening to your character can also lead to consequences and problems. Sometimes, the character says yes to the date. Oh my God, that's exactly what I've been wanting the whole time. Or we say yes to the marriage proposal, but now that comes with its own new problems. So it doesn't just have to be bad things happening. Pressure cooker can include a good mix of things your character wants and doesn't want, but they should all lead to more problems and consequences and complications, regardless of the nature of the thing. Hope that makes some sense. So don't think of it as just limited to bad things happen to the hero. Hope that makes sense. Let's go into our new exercise for today, which is called pressure exercise. So I'll give the example with the first one. We're going to start with a difficult and meaningful goal, and then we're going to jump right to the midpoint and ask, how is the story going to escalate from here? I'll start with my example. I have the first two escalations written out. Tegan is a relentless cop trying to find a kidnapped victim. The midpoint is she figures out that the kidnapper is in fact the chief of police. Hey, it's kind of like Becky's story. Wasn't it a cop who was the criminal and ends up being the culprit in yours as well?
Yeah,
go.
it's a good trope.
It sure is.
It's that
Yeah.
whole corruption thing.
Yeah, pretty realistic, right? So the kidnapper is in fact the head of the police. So then let's do 3 escalations after the midpoint with this question of, do they succeed? Yes, but, or no, and. my first escalation is she attempts to make an anonymous report. Does she succeed? My answer was yes, but the chief traces the call to her house. Second escalation. The chief shows up at her door in the middle of the night. She tries to get him to leave. Does she succeed? No, and he invites himself inside, insisting he has an important topic to discuss. Escalation 3. The chief threatens her into silence. Does she agree to be silent? Or let's frame it as, does she get out of the situation? What do you guys think? Options?
No,
Yes, but or no?
but
Go ahead. Oh, don't do no. But.
no. Oh, sorry, no. And oh, okay, I was gonna do no, and she finds some like something on him that so she's strapped in the house with him and finds something on him that is the proof that she needs, was what I was gonna do.
Oh, okay. So maybe let's frame the problem a little different, or the question a little differently then. So in your case, it sounds like you're asking, does she find the evidence to convict him, or to like prove that she is that he's like a criminal, right?
Yes.
So does
So
she
yes, so
find
then
a way
he-
to prove he's the villain?
Yes, but she can't get away. He's got her trapped in the house.
Great. Yeah, that could definitely work. Your character could use this as an opportunity to, I'm gonna set up a recording device. Now that he's escalated by showing up and threatening me, I'm gonna use this opportunity to get him to admit something on the tape. So then in that case, yeah, we'd frame the third conflict around, does she succeed at that? Nice work. We've got some, so that was just an example. That was me doing the exercise. We have some that you guys can volunteer for. I have 3 options. One of them is a realistic story about a narcissistic actor trying to save his reputation. One of them is a story about a beaver trying to stop bulldozers and construction workers from destroying his forest. And one of them is a sort of odd horror, maybe like magical realism story about a hotel clerk at a rural motel being confronted by Satan. Okay, let's get a volunteer.
I'll go for the beaver one.
Okay, thanks, Becky. So here's the situation. Fluffy is an anxious beaver, and the only one in the forest who seems to be panicking about the bulldozers wrecking the habitat. He has to find a way to save his home. The midpoint is Fluffy gathers all the animals for a big, like, forest-wide intervention, basically. Like, no one's taking this seriously. So your first escalation is going to be he tries to rally the troops for a big attack on the construction camp. Does he successfully convince them? What do you think?
Initially, no. No, I go, yes, but not everybody. Yes, but only a small band.
Okay. Meaning a small band that would not be enough to really solve the problem?
Correct, yeah. So yes, but he only convinces one of the council people, meaning the council aren't giving their full support. The rallying the troops, he's only convincing one of the leaders. Imagine all the animals have different, so he's convinced, I don't know, the rabbit leader when he actually needs the other animal leaders. I don't know what animals live around there.
Up to
I
you.
imagine it's loads of different animals.
Yeah, woodland creatures, your choice.
Yeah, he gets a squirrel. He actually needs those who can fight.
Okay, he just gets the weak little animals and only not enough of them to do any damage. Okay.
Yeah.
So he sets out with his little band of followers to try to stop the bulldozers. They do their best to try to chew down trees to fall and crush the construction equipment. Does that work? Still, Becky?
Yeah. No, and it just alerts the construction workers to these surprisingly intelligent animals that are trying to stop them.
Okay, yeah, maybe they even film with their phones. They're like, holy crap, look, I think those beavers are talking to each other.
Yeah.
So now they're going to report that. Okay, we've got one more. So Fluffy's now, and I guess his followers are now being hunted by the humans he annoyed with his last trick. Do they escape?
No. And they end up being put in a research facility.
No, they
That's
get
the all is
captured.
lost. Yeah, and that's the all is lost. Because
Okay,
then they're furthest from their goal.
right. And now they're going to have to get out in time to save their home, I would assume,
Yep.
because the humans will keep making progress, and so now we can sort of find a way for them to assess, like, oh gosh, we only have 3 days left before they get to the heart of the forest or whatever it is. Well done. All right, so the idea here is that, yeah, we're just coming up with ways that that your character's plans don't work, or if they do work, they come with another problem that then is sort of your character's fault. It doesn't always have to be exactly your character's fault, but that's just a nice way to layer out the consequences on them, so that you could even imagine if in Escalation 3 you had said, no, they do, or you a yes, but that you could do in the third one here would be, yes, they do escape, but they lead the lumberjacks back to the village. Then we could say your character succeeding actually led to some of the worst problems of all. So escalation can look like a couple things. Sometimes it's something bad that happens to your character and they completely fail to make any progress. Sometimes they do make progress, but it turns out the progress they wanted came with hidden costs. Or sometimes they weren't that hidden and we knew what the cost would be, but your character just thinks they can overcome or avoid the cost somehow, right? Anything else you want to add, Becky?
No, that's good.
All right, Fluffy's quest. What do you think? Does he get out at the end? Does he save the forest?
Oh, of course he doesn't. Yeah, it's a kid's book.
Okay.
But he has to find out that not all humans are bad. And it's with the help with some humans that actually care about the environment.
Okay. Yeah, probably some tree hugger hippie kid or whatever. Thank you, Becky. Can we get another volunteer to do one more? We have 2 options for the storyline.
I mean, I could do the hotel one. Just going to say that, just going to post the trailer there. The Beaver one reminded me to this Pixar movie that's coming out.
Oh yeah, Hoppers. That's right. Wasn't there another animated movie with beavers at some point as well? I seem to remember there was another either Disney or Pixar that.
I mean, I'm talking about that one just because it has the same plot mostly.
Oh, is it the same idea? We have to save the forest.
I swear I have not seen it.
It hasn't come out yet. So it's just a trailer mostly. But in the trailer it's kind of like this girl gets into the beaver brain, like animatronic kind of thing. And she kind of like riles up the animals to like go into revolution because they have limited their existence to this one little pond in the forest.
Oh, okay. So we have to raise the troops.
Yeah.
All right. So
The beaver overlord.
Right, exactly. So we if you want to choose the hell one, or the Satan at the hotel one, I guess I should say, is a little bit less defined. I haven't written as much in the escalation, so you'll have to do a little more work on this one. But that's okay.
Okay.
Let's go into it. All right. Mandy is a clerk at a lonely rural Arizona motel. A man arrives who refuses to leave. He's just in the lobby, I guess. He claims to be Satan, and he said he's here to take her soul to hell. She has to find a way to get rid of him. Your midpoint is he promises he'll leave if she just beats him in a game of cards. So they begin to play. Your first escalation is she tries to bluff him at poker and beat him. Does she win? Does she beat him at poker?
No, but she gets another chance to play another a game that she knows better.
So try not to do no but, because no but is actually lessening the consequences on your character. So saying no but means no, you didn't succeed, but you get a concession in your favor. We want to do the opposite of that. So you're either doing yes but or no and. Make sense?
Yeah, I am thinking.
Okay, I'll give you a second.
Yes, but he ends up tricking her and literally the cards that she had turned into something else.
Oh, okay. So she wins, but
He
uh,
cheats.
oh, okay. If he cheats, does she win or does she not win?
She did win. The thing is that he made it so that it would seem he won.
Oh, okay. You're saying so she plays by the rules and seems to win, but he cheats and prevents her from winning, I guess we're saying. He uses magic to prevent her.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So that's going to be yes, but. All right, what happens next? We need 2 more escalations.
I suppose since it was like I'll live if if I beat him at she looks for another way to get him out of there.
Okay, what would the other way be?
She kind of like sets him on a duel with music because she was like a music major but dropped off.
Okay, so music duel. She challenges him to a music battle. The devil's typically pretty good at those in stories. Let's see, does it work?
No,
Okay, no, and what?
no one her soul is now on the line because he kind of like said, and now I'm taking you with me when I decide to leave.
Okay, this seems like maybe it's like a 3 rounds kind of game. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah.
Okay, so no, and the now she's up to 2 failures. 1 more failure and she's done. Okay, does she win? I guess, does she try another challenge or does she try something else for your 3rd escalation?
The last one, I'm thinking that she sees that she cannot do this on her own, and she recruits someone else to do something.
Okay, who does she get?
Like a sibling, little sibling, I was thinking.
Okay, she recruits her, let's say, little brother to help. And what's the challenge or is she going to get the brother to participate for her in a challenge or to do something else?
Yeah,
Okay, does it work?
it does.
Okay, yes, but
Uh, the devil says like the best like 3 out of whatever the number, you have to get all 3 of them, and you just got 1, so you just got more choices.
oh, so he sort of changes the rules again.
Yeah.
Okay, you can do that. Another approach might be something like she recruits the brother to help, the brother wins, and then the brother gets uh a wish or something
Into
like
the
that.
game.
He gets, yeah, or he gets the positive consequence of winning as opposed to her. Really, the only stakes where he would leave apparently if she wins. So not a great opportunity there. But in any case, yeah, nice job with this. You've if you if the character ends up being the one to make these challenges and to decide the sort of terms of the game, it makes sense that they would choose something that they would think they were better at, and that they would attempt to, increase their odds of winning as much as possible through these different escalations. Thanks for being in the challenge. We're towards the end here. Let's ask. I mean, I do have one more if Megan wanted to try, but it's all.
I will give it a shot, but I am waiting on my DoorDash, so if I have to stop at some point, I will apologize to you.
Okay. Just let me know if that happens. Let's go into this one then. You got the realistic story about a narcissistic actor trying to save his reputation after an embarrassing video leak makes him look like a bigot. Your midpoint is he throws a big press conference to talk to the media. Escalation 1. He attempts to deflect blame. Does he succeed?
No, he doesn't. He does not. He definitely doesn't succeed. He manages to make like a few Chad bros be like, yeah, but basically, he gets jumped on by the majority of the non-far right press.
Okay, so no, and how would you escalate?
I would escalate in that, in addition to that, to having made the comment, lawsuits are then filed against him.
Okay, so no, and now they're filing lawsuits.
Yeah, they're kind of Me Tooing him, sort of.
Okay, let's keep escalating. After the conference, he goes out to dinner and gets cornered by former fans at the restaurant who begin grilling him and filming him with their phones. Does he manage to win them back over?
Um, Again, this is one of these instances where his facade cracks, and so he starts to try and explain. But as he's harangued and they don't let him go, he does that like knock the phone or the camera out of the guy's hand kind of thing, and then instead of the thing where he's reasoning with them, all the public sees is the clip of him like losing it and like finally knocking the guy over after the guy has literally just harassed the crap out of him.
Okay, so no, and a new viral clip goes out of him attacking a fan.
Yeah, well, a paparazzi, but the fans are seeing it because they're all kind of gathered around.
Yeah, okay, just attacking anyone on video would look pretty bad if you were already in this spot. Paparazzi. Okay, last one. Weeks later, he's on set in Italy. A public protest shuts down the whole production. Does James manage to placate the angry crowd?
I think this is our sort of final all is lost moment where he ends up in an Italian jail, and there's a threat to take him off the film, and that he's somehow broken the agreement. They've maybe found some kind of drugs or whatever on him, which he's by studio agreement not allowed to have, but he started using again because of all the pressure.
Okay, no, and it comes out that he's using drugs, which is enough to get him arrested.
Yeah.
All right, that spiraled pretty badly from just a viral video that made him in hot water. Good examples here. Thank you for that. So
You're
hopefully we're
welcome.
seeing how we
Thank
can.
you.
Excellent. Hopefully we're seeing how we can take almost any sequence of events and simply by asking the question, do they succeed at this tactic? And answering with yes, but, meaning they do succeed, but there's a consequence, or no, and, meaning no, they fail, and also there's a consequence of their attempt. We can scale up to organically sort of like we can organically evolve the situation towards big problems where we have either broadened or deepened the scope and made your hero's life way, way worse. That's the sort of most dramatic conflict that you'll want to dig into in the second half of your Act 2.
Poor bastard's just gone full Kramer.
Exactly, yes. Quite a few stories like that these days. Let's wrap up with a couple last slides, which is this question of who wants to ask a question about anything we talked about today or get any extra help on what they're working on. Everybody on track to finish? The crushing silence means yes, I think. Okay. All right, well, we can wrap up here then if you guys don't have any other questions, topics, issues, pages to look at, hurdles and difficulties in your work. Okay, so I will be off my class tomorrow because I'm flying to Denver for a week. And I am not 100% sure about the classes on the upcoming Friday and Saturday, because I will, again, be still on my trip. So check the events tab if you want to see everything coming up and make sure that those are, in fact, still happening. But I would count on at least tomorrow being off and next Sunday being off. Friday and Saturday, I might do. All right, thank you all for coming by. We have one class left in Novel Bootcamp. We're almost to the end of the year. Hopefully you all finish strong in December and are happy with what you've done, all that you've accomplished so far. Thanks for coming by. We'll see you guys soon at your next script camp class or word camp class or events. Happy holidays.
Thank you.
Bye. Happy holidays.
Have a good time with your family.
Thanks, Becky. See you next time.